Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Menno Lounge. I'm Julie Gordon White. So glad to be with you with our great guest today. Really one of everybody's favorite guests. So I'm just glad she's with us. You probably have already found her, are listening to her podcast, Katy Fogarty of A Certain Age podcast. And I'm always excited. Does she know everything about aging? She's just a beautiful human. So it's just a win-win. It's like having a friend that you didn't know that you needed this person in your life, but you do. And there she is. Hi, Katie.
Hi, Julie.
Happy summer.
Great to be. It's pouring rain here. It does not feel like summer, but summer it is.
I know. Well, actually, it's overcast here in San Francisco area, so it's just crazy. I was in the wine country over the weekend at a business retreat.
Nice.
Thunderstorms. It was over 100 in the day. Thunderstorms at night. We don't have that. That's like East Coast, like Florida kind of thing. We don't have that. So
yeah, it's like hurricane style. I know.
right.
I think the whole country's been having very weird weather, but
Exactly.
what can you do?
So confusing. Yeah. Kind of like midlife. So confusing.
Yes, I love it.
Well,
I love it. Hi, Renata.
Oh,
I see some friends popping in. I
oh,
love
good.
it. Hi,
Hi,
everybody.
Fem Pharma's here. I know all our good friends in the menopause space are like, yay, you guys are talking today. So that's how I felt. Yay, we're talking today. Katy, I really see this show today as like an advice show. So I hope you have your best advice. You have your perfect glasses for Katy's advice show today on the Menno Lounge. How many episodes have you recorded for your podcast, A Certain Age?
I just finished recording my 145th show.
Wow, wow, wow. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Consistency is huge. That's the hardest part, besides getting great guests, but just being consistent in that. And so I give you a big shout out for that. That just shows your passion and commitment to the mission. And so in all of that conversation, you have gleaned probably more nuggets than anybody. I don't know, I think we're like, maybe you're number 58, episode. So I've got a ways to go. But so I look forward today to talking about some of your best advice that you've experienced for yourself and gleaned from your guests. But before we hop into that, I want to talk about a new sort of angle that you are leaning into on Instagram, where you're sharing women's stories. And what I loved on your site, it says, age, we own it, heck yeah, which is like a subtitle for Aging Out Loud. And you're inviting women to tell their stories. I know you reached out to me. Tell us a little bit more about that, because it's a little different than the podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Julie. First of all, I'm so delighted to be with everyone today. I'm a Julie Gordon super fan. I love Bossa Bars. They've sponsored the podcast in the past. I'm a true fan of the product and an enormous fan of Julie. So it's such a pleasure to be with you today.
And we saved your life once on a bad hiking experience.
That's right.
I'm just saying.
I took a very long hike and the Bossa Bars got me through it. But so I launched the podcast probably I'm closing in on 3 years. I've done 145 shows. But even though that's a big, a large number of shows, I can only do the podcast once a week. It's every Monday. And doing the podcast has taught me that there is absolutely no shortage of incredible women in midlife doing amazing things. And so I wanted to create an opportunity for more women to share their stories and also to opt in, because when I do a podcast, I work with the guest. If I've had one dermatologist on, I'm not going to have another the next week. There's a variety. And I wanted to create a space where women could sort of raise their hand and choose to tell their story without needing an official podcast invitation. So I created a sister account on Instagram that I call Age Out Loud, which is one of the taglines of the podcast. And it's a chance for women to do exactly that. There's a simple link in the bio of the Instagram account, and it takes you to a type form, which is a form that allows you to kind of toggle a few buttons, type a few sentences, upload a few photos, and share the story of what you are up to in midlife, what you are up to at 40, 50, 60, and beyond. And why you are excited and what you've sort of taken on in midlife and what you've let go of. And I am knocked out by the stories that I've been hearing from people. And I would encourage anyone who's listening to this to head over to Let's Age Out Loud and share your story. I've heard from women who have moved countries, right? They've left marriages, they've quit alcohol, they've started new creative projects, they've taken up yoga, just like a variety of things. And I love it. It gives me inspiration, you know, every time I open up the Typeform and I hear somebody's story. So I'm a big believer that sharing our stories connects us to people, and that midlife, like really any phase of life, is better when you do it with friends. And so I really just love for myself the chance to connect with more women. This is how we met, Julie, and we've gotten to meet in person a few times, and we've remained connected. And there's such a sense of community and, you know, sort of solidarity when people get to this phase of life and they're excited about connecting with other women.
So beautiful. I wanted you to share that because I think it's so cool. You know, often when somebody has a successful podcast, we tend to feel like they're over there and you can just be passive in listening, even though there's incredible information and advice. And I love, 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 it just speaks to your authenticity that you've opened the door to allow women who are not a guest to share their story and be featured, which I think all midlife women should be featured somewhere. Sometime.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
We deserve
and you do a beautiful job.
We deserve a huge spotlight. Yeah. You know, everyone's up to great stuff. And you know, what's great for some people are launching businesses, but some people are simply becoming more active volunteers in their community. Yeah. You know, what lights us up is different, but what we have in common is that we're at a phase of our life where we're really excited about exploring, doing, activating, realizing our dreams, whatever they are.
And some women aren't excited. And when they discover you on Instagram and your pages, then maybe they can become excited and not afraid, or let go of whatever shame or whatever they're carrying that doesn't serve them. So I think your page is so inspiring. And so if you haven't already, head on over there, tell everybody the URL again so they can find it.
It's on Instagram and it's at Let's Age Out Loud. I also have a link to the Typeform and a little bit of the content on my website, the podcast website, which is A Certain Age Pod. But Julie, I love the fact that you flagged that, you know, not everyone's necessarily excited about midlife. You know, I want to be crystal clear, and I know I covered a lot of my podcast. There are a lot of challenges that we need to navigate when we get to this age. And, you know, I wake up every day grateful that I'm here. I had the misfortune of losing two really close friends of mine when I was in college, in young college. And so that experience really wired me to realize that not every day is a given. So that's really informed my worldview. But so I am excited about aging. It's like, it's completely authentic. It's true to who I am. But I do recognize it's hard. You know, I'm dealing with a parent who's got some, you know, increasing health challenges. I've got kids. I'm empty nesting, or in the process of doing that. There are body changes. I do not even want to, like, maybe we'll get into it, but menopause does a number on your mind and your body and your vagina and all
A to V, right? A to V.
It's like, it's a whole situation. And you know, I think, again, you know, when you find community and solidarity with people who are going through some of the same challenges, it makes you feel less alone, and it gives you a lot more information. And that's something that I really try to do on the podcast is I feature guests that are not just reinventing in midlife and are excited, but I feature experts who help you thrive in midlife, because it can be a roller coaster.
Yeah. I love that. And I don't think we're at the stage yet where we don't need any more information or resources. I think the more we can provide, those of us that are in the menopause space or midlife space, the more we can provide, then every woman can find at least one nugget of something that resonates with her. And for me, that, like, okay, check. Good day, well used today. You know, if I can provide one thing. So today, you're my one thing, Katy. I'm providing you as my nugget of goodness for women in midlife. So let's jump in, since this is our Katy's advice show today on the Menno Lounge. You know, I asked you to come up with 5 tips or really pieces of advice that you've gleaned over your time that you think could be really helpful. So should we jump into number 1?
Let's do it. So my number one tip is to, if you are in perimenopause, if you're in menopause or beyond, is to find a doctor who gets it. And when I say it can be anything. It can be the dry vagina that we talked about. It can be like bladder leakage. It can be female hair loss. It can be mood swings. You know, whatever it is that you are struggling with, I have learned from talking to dozens and dozens of doctors on my show that help is out there, and that if you're not being seen and served by your current medical practitioners, find a doctor who gets it, because you don't have to suffer. That's number one.
And what if you already have a doctor? Because I know many women have had a gynecologist or a general, GP, and they've been with them for 20 or 30 years, and they've delivered their babies, or they've been through health challenges. And now the doctor they have is like, oh, menopause, it's no big deal, just keep on going.
Right.
What about that?
I think that's a very common refrain. A lot of times doctors will kind of throw their hands up and say, oh, it's, just aging, it's natural, it's to be expected. Right. And, my biggest takeaway is that you need a medical team that really is working with and for you. And I have learned, surprisingly, that many doctors do not get the training that they need in med school to manage menopausal changes, and that not every doctor is up on the current science. And so you can really have a great relationship and love and value your doctor. But if you are not getting the full attention, your body best. If you are struggling and your doctor's not hearing you, it's time for a new doctor. And we break up. We've broken up with boyfriends. We break up with girlfriends. We break up with fashion fads.
Right.
We break up with our skinny jeans.
Right.
You can break.
Oh, we do.
Sometimes we break up with our hair color. We can move on in life. And so if you are not being heard by your doctor, you can find one that gets it. A great resource is NAMS, which is the National Association, I believe, of Menopause. I forget what the acronym stands for, but if you go to menopause.org. It's the leading menopause society, and you can find doctors in your area who can get it and who will work with you.
Actually trained. Yes, absolutely. We actually have a link directly from our site on bossabars.com where you can click through straight to NAMS to find a doctor who has received that extra education, and not only that, has raised their hand to say, I want to know more, because that's a big part of it, that they care. And not that regular doctors don't care, but this doctor has, special interest in this field, and we deserve to have that. So I'm there with you. Break up or add to the team. Add to the team. Beautiful. I love it. Okay, that's a good number one. I always think, should we do these lists like from number 5 to number 1 or 1 to 5? But we're going to number 2 now, Katie.
Okay,
so
these are all weighted. So whatever order you do it in, I think they're all important.
Okay.
Number 2, I would say, don't believe the age myths that are out there. Don't believe pop culture when they tell you that you're too old or it's too late. And because it's not. I talk to women on my show constantly, just like you, Julie, who are launching businesses in midlife, who are taking on creative endeavors, who are becoming published novelists at the age of 54. Right. So we see a lot of, 40 under 40 lists. We see a lot of, there's a lot of excitement when you have young prodigies, and it can make you feel like, maybe things have to happen when you're young, and that you get to a certain age and it's too late to do things. And I am here from the front lines to tell you that I launched my podcast 35 days before I turned 51.
I love that.
And I know, I love it too. And I now have listeners in 117 countries across almost 9,000 cities. And I did this, I was a brand new podcaster. I'd never been, behind a podcast mic, and I was able to grow the show. So if you have a dream, if you have a project or a business you want to launch, do not think that being at a certain age means that it's not possible. It's Absolutely. Totally possible.
You and I have a friend, my dear friend here in the Bay Area, Jen Marples, who has a whole podcast and a whole brand around. You're not too effing old, which is...
You're not too effing old.
You just go straight to it.
Yes, Jen has been a guest on my show, and she is 100% correct. You are not too effing old to do the things you want to do.
And just look her up. You'll see why she's that brand. Okay, let's see. We have a question. Skinny Mermaid, which I love, by the way, is here in the Bay Area. We have Mermaid Run. We always pass up ours. I love the costumes; they're incredible. What's your opinion of the companies that have popped up? You're able to get a blood sample over to them, and they set you up on a Zoom call with a doctor to prescribe hormones. Is it that easy? Now, we do need to say that you and I are not doctors, and we do not play them on Instagram, but we get to talk to a lot of doctors.
Yes.
And so you and I know companies that specialize in this that are quite credible. What would you like to say about this?
You know, I would definitely say that I'm a podcaster and a career coach by day and not a medical professional. I do believe in telemedicine. I think there are a lot of great companies out there that are offering great e-doc services. I know Electra Health is very reputable. I know Alloy Health offers sort of pharmacy teledoc services. I don't want to weigh in on whether or not a blood test and hormone through an online practitioner is the right solution. I truly do not know enough about it. But I would recommend, if that's something that you're curious about, reaching out to, maybe your own doctor or to one of these sort of very reputable teledocs that we just discussed, Electra Health, Alloy Health, and see what their take is on that. I guess I would have to know what the specific company is, but I do believe in teledoc, but I'm not sure I can answer that question completely. I hope that's okay, Skinny Mermaid.
I think it's a great answer. And I would add, I think of things often through the business lens, and I would say, do your due diligence. If I were doing a deal, I would do my due diligence, look under the hood. And so this is your body. So you need to really look under the hood and research, who are these companies? What are their foundations? Who are their doctors? Research their doctors, look at what patients say, and then maybe ask your own doctor, hey, this is what I'm thinking about doing in a specialist area. So this is what I love. There's so many really amazing solutions out in the world for midlife women. And so we get to use our midlife confidence and knowledge and wisdom to figure out which things are for us and which things are not for us. And that's what's exciting about being midlife. You have a whole body of work that we can pull from to figure them out. So do your due diligence and follow what Katy said. Those are some great companies to take a look at. So, and disclaimer, we are not doctors. We just play menopause experts on Instagram.
Even I look smart with my spectacles.
Okay, how about number 2? Skinny Mermaid said she appreciated your insight. So there you go, Katy.
Yeah. So we did number 2. So number 3, I would say it's a little bit of an extension of what I was saying about the ageist myths before. Pop culture will give you messages about things sort of just beyond even whether or not you're the right age, and they make it seem like aging is to be feared and to be fought off, and that aging is a drag and something we should fight tooth and nail, and that things go away as you age, and that there's a sense of loss around it. But what I've learned from this podcast, and what I believe to be true myself, is that aging gives you so many gifts that are not available to you when you're younger. Julie, you touched on this, that getting to midlife often gives you greater confidence, and it was hard at a young age to imagine that. But by the time you get to the north side of 40, till you get to 50 or 60, you've got a lot of lived wisdom, you've got a lot of experience. There's this sort of confidence that comes with knowing you've been through hard things in your life before and you can again, that you have this sort of resilience that is earned, that you've actually survived things that are difficult.
Right.
You've survived job loss and illness and deaths of loved ones and changing relationships, and you've gotten through it. And you're more powerful than you think you are. So that is an incredible gift that I think only comes with aging. And you don't hear enough about that in pop culture. Everyone acts like, oh my God, I don't want, I'm going to get bags and wrinkles. And it's it's terrible. And there's so many gifts, and that's just simply one of them. So I would say that's a big takeaway from doing the podcast and talking to women, is that there are a lot of other gifts. It's confidence, it's resilience, it's more free time sometimes as you become as hard as it is to say goodbye to your children and have your nest empty and have your family relationship morph. It's wonderful to also have some time. So,
I was really okay with it. Fly, little birdies, fly.
And it's exactly right. So there, we shouldn't always, if we're afraid of things, if things around aging feel fearful to us, sometimes we can be surprised to learn that it's not true, that there are wonderful gifts that come with aging that you can really embrace. So that would be number 3 for me.
I love that. I'm right there with you, that this is our best time. You know, I always pick that song when I post on my story, you know, this is the best time of our lives, because it really, I mean, all the culmination of what we've experienced, good and bad, and we're still here, we're still breathing. Yes. I still have this little flap of skin from birthing 3 children. I earned that thing, you know, I'm keeping it. And so I'm right there with you. It's just, we get to choose a different story that we tell ourselves about aging, and we don't have to buy the story that we've been fed by media. That's for sure.
Yes.
So I love it. It's kind of like picking a doctor. Yes, choose your own adventure and own it. So really, really good. Okay, Katy, those are 3 powerhouse nuggets there. What else you got?
I would also say that something that stuck in my mind from one of my guests, her name is Amanda Hansen, and she goes by the Instagram handle, The Midlife Muse, and she shares wonderful content. She's a psychologist by training and really a champion of women in her sort of social media presence. And she shared something on the podcast that I love and I want to offer to you, maybe as point 4. And it's to use this, a tool when you're confronted with things. And the tool is to ask yourself, do I even believe this to be true? And I have used that since she said that. It really has stuck in my brain. And I think this can be used by anyone at any age. It's not even just about midlife or feeling confidence or looking at things from a new perspective, but when you're confronted with a set of facts, to ask yourself, do I even believe this to be true? And Amanda shared this in context of her deciding to go gray. And she had a beautiful jet black hair, but as she started to age, it silvered. And people in her life said, you know, you can't do that. You're going to look old, or you won't look as beautiful. And she asked herself, do I even believe this to be true? And the answer was no. I don't believe that to be true. I believe you can be gorgeous and sexy and, you know, hot and amazing and just sort of confident and fully in bloom, you know, with gray hair. And by asking herself this tool, she was able to say, you know, to reject that. Yeah. And I love that. And I love that she put it in context for herself. And I've been able to ask myself that question for other things too. Like, do I even believe it's true that, you know, I can't grow this podcast? Or, you know, do I even believe it's true that my son going off to college is something that's going to be hard for all of us? And then sometimes you dig in, you realize that it's not, you truly don't believe it's true. And it allows you to behave and act differently, I think, than you would if you really accepted just sort of the blanket societal messages that we get, that we're pushed a lot. Women are pushed a lot of, you know, BS. It starts from the moment we are like, you know, 10, and it continues. And so anyhow, that's my last tool. Do I even believe this to be true? Use it for yourself and see what doors it opens when you realize the answer is no, I don't believe it to be true.
That's so powerful, Katy. Yeah. And thank you for sharing that tool that you learned. And it's because it's so often we have perceptions of things, but they're just an idea. And our ideas are for us that we filtered through life experience, things that we've heard, messages that we heard, and we have the same power to unfilter those ideas or change what they mean or question, is this really what I believe? Or is it just something that I've held on to because maybe my mom said it, or my, you know, people that you love and respect. And it can be difficult for women to let go of things that they have learned or taken on from other people they respect. But the truth is, at some point in our lives, you know, sometimes we don't need it anymore. It served us well, but it's not serving us now. And there's this coach, you probably know this, Marshall Goldstein wrote a book called What Got You Here Won't Get You There. And that's that same kind of idea that the things that we needed and the beliefs and the stories that we had about ourselves before we were in midlife, we probably don't need all of those. You know, we need some of them, they keep us safe, but we don't need all of them if they're holding us back. So that's a great, simple way to remind ourselves. Okay, say it one more time, Katy, go ahead.
So a tool to use sort of to maybe liberate yourself from ideas that other people might be pushing on you are, do I even believe this to be true? The answer might be yes, but quite often the answer is no. And when you really truly realize that, you free yourself up to move through new doors, try new things, and to look at things in a different way.
Wow. Okay, we're finished. I mean, what else do you say after that?
I have 5.
Bing, bang, boom. Oh, okay, good. Okay, let's just see here. The Passionista Project said that's such a great tool. Thanks for sharing it. And Jenny France Hair says, hello, gray hair. Yes, so exactly.
I know.
I'm with you, Jenny.
Julie rocking her silver and looking amazing.
But I had those same feelings like, should I do this? And honestly, so I tried. It took me 3 times for exactly what you're talking about. Who am I with silver hair, gray hair? I used to have brown hair. Who am I now? Am I old? Am I not sexy? And honestly, my sweet husband's like, I think it's hot. And I'm like, that's it. I'm good. Never going back.
Exactly. So, I love it.
That was enough for me. All right, bring us home with number 5, Katy. Better be good, because that last one was great. I'm just saying.
I know. Well, this is kind of like a hybrid one. I'm smushing 2 ideas together. Okay. But the first is it's really important to surround yourself with the right role models and to sort of clean up your social media and sort of clean up the voices that are in your head and be in conversation and community with people that are age positive, right? That do not make you feel diminished or inadequate. And there's so many wonderful voices out there. I mean, you could go back and look at every, Mental Lounge conversation and be inspired by those women. You can listen to my show. There's so many wonderful age positive accounts. We have a lot of them in common. I love like Mimi Eisen of Hey Middle Age, Jen Marples that you mentioned, Rachel Hughes, Stacey London. There's a whole host of women who are really embracing this time of life. And those are the people that you should be following and kind of seeing what's going on because it gets you inspired. And so the second part of that, as I said, this was a hybrid, is that one of my wonderful guests, Dr. Juliana Hauser, who is a marriage counselor and sort of a midlife intimacy and sex counselor, when she came on my show, and it was phenomenal, by the way. If anyone's looking to zhuzh things up, I would check that out. But she shared that she...
Do you know what episode? I'm going to go script.
We'll go back. Just take
no judgment to my sex life, but
midlife it'll pop right up.
Okay,
but she shared that she has age mentors, and that just like you might have a career mentor, she deliberately seeks out both people who are younger and older than her in chronological age. And by having somebody who's slightly ahead of you, maybe not, just in chronological years, to see how they're living their life, it takes some of the fear away around aging. And my age mentors are my mother and my mother-in-law, because they have lived very vibrant, dynamic, 3rd, 4th, 5th acts. They're up to like all sorts of great stuff. So I put that out there also. Like, make sure that you're following people that are ahead of you in aging and are doing it so beautifully. Like maybe like a Mae Musk, who's like a supermodel and 70, or I don't even know. I mean, you pick your own person, but find somebody who's ahead of you so that you can be excited about what 60 looks like, what 70 looks like, what 80 can look like.
I love that. And cleaning up your world from social media to relationships that don't fit with who you are today. That's huge. And I think women sometimes struggle with that, Katy, because we have relationships in our lives. I mean, social media, you can unfollow, no worries. But although there's a like, do they know I unfollowed them? But relationships in our lives that really are not in alignment anymore, that's a little bit harder. Have any of your guests shared any tips about how to, I guess, consciously uncouple from a friend? Anything come to mind?
I did do a show on midlife female friendships, probably in my first season. It was a while ago, but breaking up with friends didn't really come up, and maybe that needs to be a conversation that I have on the show. But I do think that countless guests have shared with me that even if it's not specifically about breaking up with a friend, that getting to midlife means being more intentional about how you spend your time and your energy and your interests. So we make choices that are going to fuel our sense of like well-being and purpose, passion, where we want to be today. So And that can look like a lot of things. And if it looks like maybe spending less time with somebody who drains you or who's, you know, no longer aligns with how you want to spend your time, I think it's okay, you know, to kind of take a step back from that relationship and focus your attention on relationships that do fuel you.
That's right. I think in midlife, we need to generate energy in as many areas as we can. And having close girlfriends that you feel good and want to share with and feel safe with, that's one of the best places I think to go in generating energy and love and confidence and support. And so, I don't think we should be afraid of that.
But new relationships as well too. I mean, midlife is clarifying, and we do less, and we want to buy less and do things. But I do think it's so wonderful to expand your circles and your viewpoints, and you need to seek out different women from different backgrounds and different areas, because I've learned so much from women who've been on my show that I might not have met necessarily in my neighborhood, because they're just different. So I think we can be intentional about making sure that we're surrounded by people who are, I don't know, sort of excited about this next act and are offering tools to help us thrive, because we need information and we need energy from a variety of places.
Yeah. And there's that saying, you are the 5 closest people or 7 people that you hang out with. So make sure you're checking your circle there, and nobody's there who doesn't need to be there. And for me,
expand your circle. Don't just be in your bubble.
It's the close ones you have to watch out for, though. But well, one, I should say, all of my close friends. I'm not trying to break up with anybody right now, so don't get all weird and start, texting me. But for me, jumping into this whole menopause conversation through the product has been amazing. At first, it was so overwhelming because I met so many new incredible women who were so empowered around menopause and midlife. I probably added 100 at least women like you, who I may not see every day, but I do see on Instagram. I see you every day, or I see you in person once or twice a year. And wow, what a gift. So you're right. When you open up your circle and maybe even step into a new arena that 2 years ago, I didn't know anybody, like zero. Just start following people, and the next thing you know, like, hey, come on over, let's go to New York, let's do this thing. So you just don't know. And
I found it to be so welcoming. I have met so many women through just becoming more active in the midlife space. It's been an absolute joy, and I think it's been terrific. So
I think so too. I love it. Okay, so let's wrap up with my favorite question.
Okay,
what does menopause like a boss mean to you?
I think menopausing like a boss is recognizing that you have more control than you think. And, we don't have control over menopause per se. I mean, it's coming, it's going to happen whether you like it or not. Right. So that's, but what I think that I've learned from recording all these shows, from talking to all these women, that while menopause is inevitable, suffering is sort of optional or not necessary. So to mentor like a boss is to say, you really have some responsibility to make sure that you're working with the right medical team, that you have a support network. You really need to activate the people in your life, your friends, to be sort of emotional support for you. And you can recognize and educate yourself. There's so many wonderful women that are speaking about menopause so joyfully. I think of Omashadi Bernie Scott as an example, who talks about menopause as being this portal, this doorway to something new. It's a liminal space, and we can choose how we move through it. And so I mentor like a boss is to say, let me make sure I'm setting myself up to really thrive during this natural transition. And before I started my podcast, I would have probably thought like, menopause is just something that happens to you, right? But menopause is something that you can really embrace and manage, and I don't know, sort of take responsibility for it to make sure that you thrive during this time.
Wow, I love that. Such a good Katy Fogarty answer. I mean, and the subtitle to that is just to age out loud. Just age out loud, right?
Age out loud. By the way, it's statistically proven to add years to your life. Dr. Becca Levy from Yale did some research. If you're age positive, it can literally add years to your life. So what are you waiting for?
That's the easiest hack right there. Age positive. I haven't heard anyone to say that. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's so fantastic. I'm 53. And by telling you I'm 53, I'm going to live longer. I'm going to make it to 54.
Yes. Well, heck yeah. I mean, is that why I always tell people I'm 50? I'm 58. Yeah, I'm 58. Yeah. I'm 58. Yeah. Katy, where can we binge on all your episodes? Go on a long walk and binge. I'm already planning my weekend for that. Okay, so tell everybody where they can find all your beautiful work.
Absolutely. I love it. I invite you to come listen to the show. You will learn something on every episode as I do. You can go to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen. It's A Certain Age. My website is acertainagepod.com. I'm on social at A Certain Age Pod. And if you want to share your age out loud story, please come find me over at Let's Age Out Loud. Come hang out.
Yes.
Thank you, Julie.
Everybody go right now. So good. Katy, thank you so much. I love this. So many wonderful tidbits in there, and tools, tricks, tips and tricks, but not really tricks, just good stuff. And we will make some reels out of this so we can share all the goodness in bite-sized pieces for everybody. So thank you for being here. You know, I'm going to have you back on for another Katy's Advice episode. So
I love it. It was
gathering
fun.
it up. Thank you so much. Have a super rest of the summer. I know I'm going to see you in the fall at some menopause event in real life.
I hope.
Yeah, I look forward to that. Big hugs, and empty nesting is great.
2 more years. I got 2 more years.
Just, you know, envision the on-ramp.
That's true. I will. Right. I love it. I love you. Bye, Julie. This was so fun.
Be well. All right. Bye,
care.
everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye. Thank you.